Laurelyn from the Mama Pop Quilt Shop here. We're working on Disappearing 9 patch as a baby gift. So, as most of you know, I am a crossing guard, and at one of the houses that I cross guard near, they just had a little baby girl, and I've never tried the Disappearing 9 patch, so I thought I'd give it a go. It's a very simple one. It's not say simple, but okay, it's on the easier scale of things. So I thought, why not give it a shot, and maybe some other people would give it a shot too. So I've cut, there's a couple of very similar fabrics I've cut in here, and I did 10, and then I thought, well, 10 isn't going to give me something even, so I did 2 bigger squares. Once I realized what this ends up being squared, I cut 2 big squares, and I have them here. It's just like a solid pinky sort of gray sort of thing. So one's going to go in one corner, one's going to go in the other, and then all the quilty blocks are going to go in between. So it's a little modern twist on a 9 patch, I guess, with some blank spot. So this is how I've got it laid out, and that's how I'm going to stitch it together. So when I go to cut it, I'm going to cut it right in the center here, and cut it right in the center there, and that's going to give me blocks that look just like this, okay? Very fun and easy to work with. So, okay, and I've already kind of got my little design going out here. So, and I'm trying to mix and match some of these colors, because sometimes there's the different purple and there's a different flower here. So, but some of these other ones are pretty much consistent. Okay, so let's just pretty much sew this little 9 patch together. And these are 5-inch squares I've chose to use, and I've just cut from my stash. You could easily use a little charm pack. That would be great use for a charm pack. Okay. So you can just go row by row if that's easier for you. I was going 2 by 2 and then adding the other one on and then the row together. I mean, it's, you know, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. And if you wanted to mix and match, I thought I'd try and get somewhat of a consistent theme going on by how I was placing them. And you know, this was one I was keeping whole, the gray I was keeping whole, the purple here and the pink here, which I was keeping as consistent. The other ones are getting cut or right here. So, you know, you have to be very picky about that too, how you want to lay it out, which piece you want cut in half, which one you want looking like little tiny squares. That's my purple. It looks like little tiny squares. And then the other ones, which end up being look like little bars, or, you know, start of a log cabin sort of thing, right? Okay. I just mix some colors. I didn't buy anything. I just got from my own little collection. That was the whole purpose of trying to, you know, use my stash for my projects this year, and I think I've done very, very well. So, and of course on one of these empty spots where it's just a solid color, I'm going to put the baby's initial, a nice big A. So, and it's Abigail. I think I said Annabelle the first time, but that's just because I have a bad memory. But I believe it's Abigail. So, and she ever cutie pie. Oh my goodness. Sorry, she was just 3 weeks and 2 days old. That's a cute little thing. Oh my gosh. All right. So now that we have those together, we just literally, this is really like the only major scene that you kind of have to watch. So, you know, line them up. You either go from the outside in, inside out, whatever works for you. If you want to put a pin in it. To me, they're 5 inches apart. And I think we're okay to just kind of hold it with our finger. But, you know, you be the judge of you. And there's also Disappearing 4 patch too. So if you don't, you know, if you just want to try maybe a smaller project, use 5-inch squares and make a 4 patch. So there's a couple of videos out there as well. I watched a couple. So, and there was Disappearing 9 patch with a twist. And there was ones that they were cutting it on the diagonal instead, and then switching out blocks from different colors of green and pink and stuff. I thought that was really neat. Thought that would be interesting. But this is the one I chose because it was my first time doing it, and I just wanted to understand it. So, and I really like how it looks. So I'm pretty much building the middle row. So I need 4 to make 4 squares to finish my middle row of my quilt, or quilt top anyways. Some people call it a flimsy, or it's known as a flimsy because it's, you know, it's just a top. When it's a quilt, it's when it's got its backing and its batting and all together. Okay, so this is how the little block looks before you press it. So let's press it, and then we will cut it. Okay. There we go. Pretty, pretty colors. And I mix some batiks and some cottons, you know, it's It's mine. I can do what I like. Okay, so as we well know, if we started off with 5 and we're adding our seam allowances, right, on either side, and then we need to cut, we're not cutting 2 1/2, we're cutting 2 1/4. So I was lining up my little quarter right here, because if I'm coming in, this is 1 inch, that's 2 inch, and then that's a little quarter. I was lining that up on my stitches, right on my stitch line. And then I knew I was getting myself in 2 inches and 1/4. And then even if I were to just like do it, I did a little pencil mark or did a little mark with my fingernail. And then I went to the other side and did the same thing, and I got right in the center. So that's what you're going to want to do on both sides. So when you cut it down this way and then this way, you just want to do it on 2 1/4. Make sure you're lining it up right on your stitches, okay? So that way, and make sure they don't go too far. Okay, and you're going to do it again. 2 1/4. And now I want to mix some of these colors. That's why I left 4 to do, because I didn't want this one just all to be the same and just flipped and flopped. Though you could easily do that, you know. My fingers are out of the way, no worries. Okay, and now I'm just going to go put this in its pile where it needs to go, and this in this pile, though I'll mix it up, but you know what I mean. And then this goes in this pile, and this goes in that pile, because those are my corners. So let's do, flip that there, putting, you know, and some of these are just clear repeats, but you know, it's some and some are very mixy matchy. So let's do this over here, and there, that should be fine. Okay, so this is how I was putting my block together. I just, like I said, wasn't trying to mix a bit of pieces together, so I didn't have, you know, the same purple over on this side that I was having over on that side, okay? And so this is how I was putting together. 2 of the little squares were going in the center, opposite each other, of the light purple, and then 2 of the big solid outside ones were coming in and leaving the 2 on the outside. And I really like these opposite each other, as well as these opposite each other, like the way how they were complementing each other, okay? And I chose what I had in my stash that would help maybe complement their little teal and pink and gray theme that they had going on. So hopefully it does that and brings out maybe a little bit more color and some other things. So, all right, so I'm going to sew that one together, and then I'm going to plan the next one. It's easier to plan it out ahead of time. There and there, and make sure I liken that. That's another one. Here, here, there. There, and then that makes this one. Make sure I don't, like I said, I don't want anything too matchy-matchy with each other. I need to make sure they're a little bit mixed. Okay, so I want to switch, because of this dark purple, I think I'm going to switch this one with this one. No, I can't, because then that's too match. I don't mind those 2 being opposite each other. There we go. I just didn't want them 2 being in the same corner. I know it sounds weird, but that's just me. We all have our little things. All right, so now I'm just going to sew those 4 blocks together, okay? 4 blocks to make 4 blocks, okay? And then this ends up being 13 1/2 by 13 1/2 in the end. And that's exactly what I cut my big pinky gray square. And this doesn't take very long at all. Once you got all your bits cut, and you start sewing, and then you do that quick little cut, and it turns out to be something totally not an eye patch. I think that's why it's called Disappearing 9 patch, because the 9 patch just completely disappears. Okay, so that's one. I don't want to get confused, so I'm going to finish this block. I'm going to finish it the way it needs to be. Okay, there, and this one here, and then we'll press all 4 of them, sew them together, and then they'll go with their counterparts on the design wall behind me. I'm just keeping a 1/4 inch seam allowance. There we go. And that's what we turned that 9 patch into. Isn't that kind of neat? I think it looks pretty cool. All right, so we'll put that on the pile to earn. And let's do these 2. And it's super duper no time at all. You got yourself a really cool. And this would go bulk it out fast because they're 13.5-inch squares, right? So this could bulk out a quilt in no time at all. You know, you can use a Disapearing 9 patch and then a big solid. Disapearing 9 patch and a big solid. I think it would look really neat. And you can always add some really neat applique or decorative stitches and stuff inside those big squares, right? Those big empty squares. Okay, now we'll flip that one. And line that up, just line in the little seam up. Basically, you just, you know, with your fingers, like I said. But if you want, it makes you nervous or whatever, go ahead and pin. A few people are asking for a little bit more, less complex blocks to try out. So I thought, why not? Let's do this. Let's do this cute little one. Everybody loves a 9 patch, and if you like your 9 patch so much and don't want to cut it up, send it to me, and we'll put it in a charity quilt. That's what they are. All right, one side then the other. Two. All right. And I think with the mix of colors, as long as they're like, you know, consistent, it wasn't, you know, a rainbow collection. I think it should match, you know, it should matchy-matchy. And it's going to be a good size. We'll take a minute because I'm doing 12 squares at 13, so 13 and a half. All right, one more block to do after this, and then we'll press them together. Turns out really cute. Okay, one more. And put it in the pile to iron. There we go. And some of these I've only had just one little 5-inch square of. That's why I chose a few of those little, you know, unusual orange, pinks and unusual purples. Some with flowers, some with circles, you know. Like a little I Spy. Not everything is the same. There's a bit of difference in there. There we go. All right, now make sure my purple's up in my corner and my blue's down in my lower corner, and off we go to the races. Okay, now we get to iron those 4, and then we'll lay them out in a way that we like, and then we'll sew them together. Okay. Go. 2. Yeah, they look pretty. Actually, I really like this little block. It's very. I'm trying to think of ideas of how I want to quilt it. I may just put a little fun little edge to edge on it with some butterflies or something. But I think it's still really cute. Could add a lot of fun stuff in there, especially down the little stripes from the squares. Okay, there's another one. One more. Okay, now I did have them, so my purples were like up on the corner, and then my blues, and then of course with this being the middle row, I want to make sure it's still going to play in with that sort of layout, right? So I'm going to make sure my purples are up and there, and then just going to lay them next to each other to see whether this is how I want them laying out, or do I want to mix, and if there's something's too close to each other, then I can switch it around. Okay, I think that looks okay. Oh, wrong corner though. I was like, wait a second, something wasn't playing right there. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so we'll put those two together. And then we'll put those two together. Ooh, like I said, put a pin in if you want. I wouldn't worry about it, but you know, you be you. You be you. You do what you want to do. What makes you feel comfortable. And I wasn't going to put a border on it, even though I thought about it. I thought, you know, it's pretty big already. Hopefully she'll have it for, you know, quite a few years. So it's not necessarily just a baby quilt, and it's, you know, it'll grow with her quilt. Are those right the way? I think so. And hopefully it ends up being one of the favorites. Kids always have their favorite. I know Munchkin does, and I know I do. I haven't even finished putting the binding on the blue one that I've made for myself. I've got the binding half done because I was thinking I didn't really want to part with my old one, though it is really falling apart and needs to be replaced. It's okay, it'll happen. I'll finish it. All right, now sewing those two bigger squares together, and then we'll press in the seams, and then we'll pin it up on the board. I could probably sew them together and then you can see it. That's what we'll do. We'll sew them together. And if you don't hit your seams exact all the time, and with this one it's so fun and twisty with the seams, it's all good. Nobody's really going to care. So I said it's a great one to practice on, to start off on, or if you want a little bit more than just putting squares beside each other. You know, this is a really good one to play around and have some fun with. There we go. I like the little color combination. Munchkin said that it looked like it was like a mosaic tile, and I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. I like that idea. And I guess it does. It does. It made me look at it a little bit different. Okay, so there's our middle piece. I'm going to grab the other two off the top, off the over here. Okay, so this one I wanted to go on this side. Oops, I could just drop the pin. There we go. There we go. That looks nice with that little two matchy there. And make sure everything's okay. I don't have anything too... that's why I try to pick an odd color between these little purple ones here and pink ones here. So it would give a little play on color and a little unique fun. Okay. All right, now, and then this one will go on this side. Okay, so let's sew this two together. Two. And we will put in a few pins. That's a lot. That's a big distance to deal with. Even I will definitely be putting in a few pins. Okay, so there's one way at the very end, one at this very end, one at this seam, where those little triangle or little squares, not triangles, meet together, and here again where the triangles meet together, and here where those squares, not triangles. That's what I mean. Okay, so we'll sew that one down, and then let's pin the other side too while we're here, and then we can just flip and sew that one too. Okay, and then we're done. Cute project. So now you know what I was working on for a weekend project, and hopefully you join us tomorrow on the live stream where we're going to be doing a little of this and a little of that. So stick around and tune in to be surprised. Here's hoping. Okay, and I'm just wiggling the seam so they just nestle right against each other or snuggle or whatever, you know, you call it potato, I call it potato. You know, that sort of thing. Just make sure they get together and they're lined up. Do a little wiggle, do a little woggle. Okay, there we go. Now you can just sew those two sides. Okay. Boop-a-doo. Scoot, scoot in the chair. All right. Oh, it's gonna look so cute. Two. I think it is about, it's been off and on storming all day, and of course I got rained on both crossing guards. That's okay. And I'm still riding my bike. Loving it. In fact, dragged Munchkin out for a bike ride out to the little village. They're, well, the Disapearing on the trail. That was a lot of fun. Definitely be doing that again. It's just nice when you can enjoy the weather. You know, it never really lasts long here in Canada. It never feels like it anyways. We have like 8-month winter, so. And we didn't even really have spring this year. It just kind of went snowstorm, hailstorm, ice storm, everything kind of storm, windstorm. And then the week later we had spring. And then it was like 3 days later we are into summer. It's okay. Just a matter of getting used to it. All right, one more seam. That's so pretty. I like mixing up the colors. Like, why not? Why not a little bit green? Why not a little bit of blue? You know? All right, there we go. One more. Just this side here, and then we'll give it a press. Okay, move that straight. Take that pin out. You know, if you had some directional fabric or you really wanted to showcase, save it for those big 5 inches on the edges, right? If you, you know, with a bigger print on it, and save the smaller ones for a smaller print or more detailed print or something like that, or a solid, you know. Yeah, anything like that I think would be very complimentary. Almost there. Thanks for sticking around, for liking and subscribing, and we really appreciate it. And check us out on Patreon. Even a little bit helps go a long, long way. Especially when we try to do so much for charities and stuff. Now, if your squares and after you're cutting, they were a little wonky, you know, you can square them up. They really shouldn't be that bad. You just sew 9 of them together and then just cut them in half. So it shouldn't be too bad. All right, there we go. Make sure all our pins are out. Nope, I had a feeling there was one there. All right, let's give this a little press and then I'll show you. And hopefully the peoples like it. Oh. Yeah, a little applique A in this big corner here, and then, you know, something else in the other one, like, you know, because it's May, maybe something that's always blooms in May, like a flower, or, you know, even just a butterfly or something like that. I can do something up on the embroidery machine, or I can just do a little applique butterfly. You know, gives a little space. I'm like, I didn't want to make a 9 one and then border it up. I thought, I'll make 12. Because I counted, I thought I had 12 when I was starting out, and I realized with one of the blue and the purples here, I could only get 10. So I thought, oh, well, there we go, change it. And I'm like, well, no, I can change it to something else. Here we go. What do we think? So that's a Disapearing 9 patch, and I made a baby quilt. Well, it's a big baby quilt, but hold on, what size is it? Hold on, let's measure it. It is 53 by 39 and a bit. So 53 by 39. There we go. Thanks, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow.